Hey everybody, Anthony here, FSU Off-Road. Welcome back to another video. If this is your first time joining us, I just want to welcome you to the channel and welcome you to our 4800 build. Now, been waiting for a little while for a few key components to come in the mail, that way we can finish up our rear suspension, and they're finally here. Made in the good old US of A. Let me show you what we got. What we have here is Branik Motorsports sway bar, kits, brakes, rotors, and eventually axle shafts and things like that. But for now, this is going to get us where we need, that we can get our brakes installed and we can finish up the suspension with our front and rear sway bars. Now, these probably don't look like the sway bars you're used to seeing on Jeeps. That's because these are heavy duty and beefy. These are made out of 1.5 billet aluminum. You can see the splines on here. We got a 35 spline in the rear with a 1.25 active diameter with 16-inch arms, and then in the front we've got 13-inch arms with a 1-inch active diameter, and that one is a 28 spline in the front. So that's what we're going to be working on. This is the sway bar arm kit, and what it's going to consist of is basically 2 arms, a bar, these Delrin bushings that go in the tube inserts, and the bar will go through there, and then it'll have some end caps that hold the sway bar on there, and then you can run those to the axles. Now you might be wondering, do you need those on your Jeep, chassis, truck, whatever you're doing? Yeah, I think so. I ran them without when I first started wheeling. It's a lot of fun, you have a lot of flex, but it's night and day difference when you actually put a sway bar kit on the Jeep, the chassis, the truck, whatever you want to put it on. And yeah, they really do help. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the rear first, and then we'll go to the front and we'll get this installed. There's a few tips and tricks to get them installed correctly, that way you don't have that way they don't bind or anything like that. So we'll go over a few of those things as well. But for now, I'm really excited about getting this stuff on there because this is the last component to this rear suspension. So let's get to it. I went ahead and put the axle pretty much at full bump. That way I can kind of start from there with our rear sway bar arms. Basically what I'll do is I'll get it all installed and I'll have it at full bump. That way we make sure we don't have any clearance, and then we can use it at full droop, make sure there's not going to be any binding, 1, and 2, make sure it doesn't have it like any kind of inversion where the bar will go on the opposite side of where it needs to be. So that's kind of one of the reasons why we have it here. Now, when I took initial measurements, should have all the length that we need to clear our bump stop, which is why I put it where we did for a 16-inch arm. And you may have been wondering what this bar was specifically for during this chassis build or during this build series. This is where our sway bar is going to mount. Our Delrin bushing will sit in here and cap this off, and our sway bar arm will lift out here. So what we got to do is we got to get this prepped and ready for our sway bar. Next thing we have to do is install our Delrin bushings here on both sides to cap this off, and this will allow the sway bar to ride in there, and it makes it nice and smooth for the torsion bar itself. So I'm going to spray a little bit of lube on here, stick these on the end caps, and then we'll be ready to install the bar.
Never break, always fight, never quit, do it right, play the game, win it life, have no shame, there's no time, feel the pain, live the grind, I could change, in my mind, pick a lane, commit and climb, only way to win at life.
With our bar installed here and we got it equal lengths, the nice thing about these Branik arms is they're a little bit chamfered out on both sides, and it just really makes a nice clean fit up for everything. And what they have going here is caps that'll cap this off, and you can tighten it down and torque it, and you'll be able to mark it that way it doesn't move. Same way with the back, the pinch bolts, same way with everything. But next thing we want to do is we want to get this arm installed, and basically, since this is that full bump, we want to articulate this up as much as possible before it hits anything, and that's kind of how we're going to set it up, and then we can kind of get our links and things like that built and onto the rear axle trussing here, and make sure that there's not going to be any complications with it. So I'm going to go ahead and get this stuff pinned up and see if we can't get this finalized. Just wanted to bring you in here and see and show you what the full assembly looks like. Now, like I said, measured it dead nuts. There's a roughly 3/8 of an inch gap right there, so should have all the clearance that we need. Now what I want to do is I want to flex these arms up. I did the other side as well. I want to flex them up as much as possible, and then I want to start using this for mock-up for our lower brackets to put our sway bar, actual bars to the bottom. So that's what we're going to do next, try to get this figured out.
I never miss, that's fact. Taking big swings, put your hand to the bat. Put me in the ring, you'll go out in a bag. Cause I sing what I mean and I bring it to the mad light. Ain't got time to kill, I got time to feel. I took the red pill, I know life's short so I wanna live real. But how's it supposed to feel?
What we did was we took measurements, obviously at roughly full bump, and it's going to be 12 inches from eye bolt to eyelet, which is what we kind of have set up here. And as you can see that the angle is still going forward, so there's no way for it to completely invert and go backwards. So I'm pretty happy and satisfied with where these mounts will be. So I'll just have to duplicate it, get them set up on both sides here, and then what we can do is we can build our sway bar link tabs, and we can do some fine adjustments that way. But this is our full link or full strap, and this is our sway bar arm here, so shouldn't have any complications, shouldn't have any issues there, at least with it, you know, flipping, because you definitely don't want that when you're on the track, on the trails, anywhere. So moving on from our sway bar arms to the actual link bars there. From the sway bar arms, what I like to do is I like to thread your nut up on your heim all the way up, and then just leave a little bit of a gap on both sides. That way it'll give you adjustability to make it a little bit shorter, a little bit longer, and still have proper thread engagement. I typically do about 1/4 of an inch whenever I do that. So we'll get this measured from 12 inches to 12 inches, center point to center point. Get everything 1/4 of an inch gap, 1/4 of an inch gap, make sure it's all threaded down. And then what you do is you'll measure from the chamfer on your insert, get that length, and then you'll cut your tubing. For us, we're just using some scrap 1 1/4 120 wall tubing that we have, and that's what we're going to make our link arms out of.
How's it supposed to feel?
Just wanted to show you what it was going to look like at full bump with the arms and the links and everything attached here. So with the tire on there, you can see we still have enough clearance off of the rear sway bar, which is the reason why I chose the length that I chose there. I believe it's 3 inches from the chassis to the start of the bar here. That way the tire would clear the rear sway bar arm. Now at full bump, you can see we just barely clear it there. Like I said, there's probably about 3/8 of an inch there. We clear it here, so there's not going to be any issues with it at full bump. Now, if we go ahead and lower this, The only thing that I don't like about the placement of the arms where they are is, as you can see, they're slightly downward, and the only way that I could have got rid of that is if I either one, extended it out, or two, made this wider, which I didn't want to do because this makes it nice and compact. But like I said before, it doesn't invert whenever it's at full droop, so we don't have to worry about that. So this is going to work out. Ideally, I would like it to be a little more parallel to the chassis, but this is going to work out just fine. Just stop what I was doing. I've had a few days to look at this, to really ponder on it, and honestly, I just don't like the way it looks. It'll work like this, not a problem. It won't invert. I get to travel. I need up travel, but I just don't like the way it looks right here. So I'm just going to do some contemplating whether I need to get a longer bar, or if I need to extend this out a little bit more, and see if I can get it to be a little bit more parallel. And yeah, I just want it to look a little bit better than it does right now, and that's just me being, I don't know, maybe a little bit OCD about things lining up and things like that, but I think it'll just look better as well. Not necessarily anything with functionality, but if I'm going to do it, I want to do it to my likings, and I want to do it right. So I'm going to work on this, and I'll just, do an update whenever I'm done. I don't know what it'll be, but I'll let you know. So yeah, I just want to finish it off with that. In the previous clip, I told you I'd come back when I figured out what I was going to do, and it's been probably about 3 weeks since then, and I figured it out, and now I'm going to show you what we did. As you can see, we are at full bump, and as you can see, our actual coilovers have arrived, and they were a little bit different fitment than our mock-up coilovers. So what we had to do is we actually had to build customary brackets to lower the coilovers to minimize our up travel. So we wanted to minimize our up travel, around 12-13 inches. So I split the difference right at 12.5 inches, and right now we are at 12.5 inches of up travel, and our sway bar tucks in nicely. There's a little bit more of a gap here now. We had to move it back 1/4 inch, but as you notice, it's a little bit wider than it was before. What we actually did was we went with a longer sway bar, the actual torsion bar itself, inside this tube, which allowed this arm to push out and actually get more clearance on this diagonal support tube there. And everything tucks up here nice and neat. This is at full bump, completely against the bump pad. There's no clearance issues. Everything is going to fit nice and neat in there. But the best part about this whole thing is it fits. The other one fit, however, it kind of looked funny whenever it was at full or at ride height. Let me show you what this one's going to look like at ride height. As you can see, went ahead and lowered the jack, got it under its own weight on its tires, and as you can see, instead of it being at a huge angle down, it fits pretty much parallel to the chassis there. It's at a slight angle down, but that'll work out great. Now you may be wondering, what about this bump can? It's a little different. Well, we also had clearance issues in the front, so in order to keep everything the same, what we did was I went ahead and changed out these rear bumps to the pin style, which we discussed in the last video. This is just a pin style clamp with a huge bolt that attaches everything to keep the bump stop in place. Now we still have our gap here. I still kept the mounts the same, but this way everything is the same. All the bump stops are the same, and then now we got our sway bar installed. It's good to go. We've got our coilovers here, they're good to go. And now it's about time to, I have to do a couple more pieces to that coilover mount there, reinforce a few things, but that is how we fixed the sway bar and just its limitations. And I think it looks a lot better like this. And we actually have done the front as well. As you can see, the front's all done. We got our bump stops installed as well. I will have to make our little link bars a little bit longer, but that's one of the reasons why I didn't weld everything up, so I won't lose those thread inserts. I just had to get some more material, build a little bit longer length, or a little bit longer link bars there for the sway bars, and we'll be able to finish up the front. But yeah, coming together nicely. Won't be too much longer. This thing's gonna be under its own weight once we get our coilover springs and everything. But that's enough chit chat for today. That's enough chit chat for this video. Hope you guys like what you saw. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. And we've got a lot more to go on this bad boy. So we'll see you guys in the next one.